The future perfect tense in French expresses an action that will have been completed before another future action, which is similar to the English will have plus a past participle. The tense describes something that will be done before something else in the future, known in French as le futur antérieur. In general, it's a compound tense, just like the compound past, so it will use a subject, auxiliary verbs, avoir, or être, and a past participle. However, the difference in this tense is that the auxiliary verbs will use future simple conjugations. I already showed them in the previous video, which I recommend watching before continuing with this lesson. Additionally, past participles are a complex topic in many French tenses, and I thoroughly explained them in my compound past video, which I also recommend watching before this video. When it comes to forming conjugations in this tense, most verbs will use avoir as the auxiliary, which will have irregular conjugations in the future simple tense. Generally, only knowing the irregular stem is sufficient, because future simple endings are used for all types of verbs. So, if we take a verb like parler, to speak, we'll use a subject, future simple conjugations of avoir, and a past participle of parler. You should know that participles can have many irregular forms, which again, I showed in my compound past video, so explaining them here is unnecessary. J'aurais parlé, tu aurais parlé. Il, on aura parlé. Nous aurons parlé. Vous aurez parlé. Ils auront parlé. This is how avoir is used in the future perfect. However, some verbs will use être as the auxiliary verb, and they also work the same way in the compound past. These include reflexive verbs and verbs of movement, so we can use a verb like aller, to go. We need a subject, future simple conjugations of être, which have an irregular stem, and the past participle of aller. Je serai allé. Tu seras allé. Il sera allé. Elle sera allée. Nous serons allés. Eux, es. Vous serez allés. Eux, es. Ils seront allés. Elles seront allées. In this case, you're seeing new grammatical endings with the participles, because this is a key rule when using être. Past participles must agree in gender and number with the subject. This is how conjugations are formed in the future perfect, but it's important to understand when to use it. The most common use is expressing completion before another future action, like saying, Quand j'aurai terminé, je t'appellerai. The finishing happens before the calling. The tense can also express assumption or probability about a past event in the future perspective. This allows us to speculate about what must have happened, like saying, Il aura oublié son rendez-vous. In English, this sounds like must have plus a past participle, but in French, it's a way of showing a logical guess about the past. Moreover, you'll often find the tense with phrases that show a sequence in time, like quand, dès que, aussitôt que, après que, une fois que. An example is Dès que j'aurai mangé, je sortirai. So, this is how the future perfect generally works in French, but other concepts can improve our understanding of the tense. The good thing is that it has no distinct irregularity by itself, and because it's a compound tense, only the auxiliaries and past participles may sometimes be irregular. This is something that you don't need to worry about because it appears in any compound tense that uses participles, which I already showed. Because of past participle rules, we can remember the most common irregular participles, but the point is that the future perfect pattern is not irregular by itself. The last thing to note is that it can never appear in a si clause, because logically we'll need future perfect phrases, like saying, Quand j'aurai fini, je t'appellerai. Overall, this is how the future perfect tense fully works in French.